Welcome to meddose. Let's learn about the difference between cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and skeletal muscle. Let's see the nature of each muscle tissue. Cardiac, which is an involuntary striated muscle tissue. It is involuntary because it is not consciously controlled, and that was done by specialized cells called pacemaker cells, and that controls the contractions of the heart. And it has striations, and you can notice the striations here, and this is because of the presence of sarcomere that manifests as a series of bands that visible along the muscle fiber, which is responsible for the striated appearance. And the function of this striated muscle is to create force and contract. It creates force and it would contract. It would either pump blood throughout the body, example cardiac muscle, or it would power up the breathing or posture or movement, example skeletal muscle. And smooth muscle, it is an involuntary and non-striated muscle tissue. It is involuntary because it is not consciously controlled. It has no striations. It has no striations because even it contains thick and thin filaments that do not arrange into sarcomeres that results in a non-striated pattern. And skeletal muscle, it is a voluntary and striated muscle tissue. It is voluntary because we can make them work by our conscious thinking, and it has striations. As you notice here, it has striations. As I mentioned before, it functions in movement, posture, and powers up our breathing. So where each muscle tissue is found: cardiac, which is found only in the heart, and smooth muscle tissue, it is found in the walls of internal organs, and skeletal, it is found attached to the bones and skin. So how about the efficiency of each muscle tissue? Cardiac does not get fatigued because it consists of special cells called cardiomyocytes, which is highly resistant to fatigue. And smooth muscle tissue, it does not get fatigued because it does not have troponin as the skeletal muscle has, so it does not get fatigued during extended periods of activity. And skeletal muscle, it gets fatigued easily because of the voluntary contractions and thus increases mean arterial blood pressure. And this increased mean arterial blood pressure decreases the blood flow of the working muscles and induces fatigue. And how about its capacity? In cardiac, it is self-stimulating. Smooth muscle tissue, it is too self-stimulating. And skeletal, it is not self-stimulating. So this cardiac and smooth muscle tissue is said to be myogenic because it is self-excitable regardless of the electrical impulse from the central nervous system. And so how it works: cardiac muscle exhibits a rhythmic contraction, and smooth muscle too exhibits rhythmic contraction because, as I mentioned a while ago, it is self-excitable and thus exhibits rhythmic contraction. And skeletal muscle, it is not self-stimulating and thus it does not exhibit any rhythmic contraction. So how about its power? Cardiac muscle tissue, its strength increases with stretching. So what cardiac patients are advised to do aerobic exercises such as brisk walking, running, cycling, and etc. They are not advised to do isometric exercises such as push-ups, sit-ups, which holds their breath. Smooth muscle tissue, it exhibits a stress-releasing response, and that permits the muscle to stretch, contract, and relax as the organ expands. And skeletal, its strength increases with stretching, as same with the cardiac muscle tissue. So how about its energy consumption? Cardiac, it has intermediate energy requirement, and smooth, it has a low energy requirement. In skeletal, it has a high energy requirement because of its voluntary actions. And how about its function? Cardiac, which is responsible for pumping blood throughout the body. Smooth, it moves the internal organs to facilitate their functions. And skeletal, it powers the joints and aids physical movements. Do you know who controls this muscle tissue? For cardiac, it is under the regulation of nervous system and endocrine system and various chemicals too. And smooth muscle tissue, it is under the regulation of nervous system, endocrine system, and various chemicals as same as the cardiac. And skeletal muscle tissue, it is under the regulation of only nervous system. My part has finished and it's your time now. Quiz time. I'll be showing the answers later that you can recheck. Let's go. First, which muscle type lacks striations? Think. Second, which muscle type lacks sarcomere? Which muscle type pumps blood? Which muscle type is easily fatigued? And which muscle type works by conscious thinking? And it's time to reveal the answers. Lacks striations, which is smooth. It does not contain striations. And which lacks sarcomere? And the same, smooth. And which pumps blood throughout the body? And that's the function of cardiac muscle tissue. And which type of easily fatigued? And that is your skeletal because of its voluntary actions. And which muscle type works by conscious thinking? And that's your skeletal. Wow, you made it. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something about muscle tissue. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, like, subscribe, comment, and click the bell icon to get notified with my upcoming videos.